Bread, rice, potatoes. These are the foods people with diabetes are often told to avoid. But they're also staple foods in most households. Asking someone to cut them out completely just isn't realistic long term. The truth is, you can enjoy them safely if you know how. And today, I want to share practical science-based strategies you can start using right away to flatten those post-meal glucose spikes and improve insulin resistance. A quick note: even though I'm a doctor, I'm not your doctor, so please talk to your healthcare provider before making changes to your diet or medications. Let's start with one of the most powerful yet least known tools: resistant starch. Most starches like bread, pasta, and foods made from refined flour break down quickly into glucose, causing rapid spikes in blood sugar. Repeated glucose peaks like this worsen insulin resistance, strain the pancreas, and accelerate the progression of diabetes. But resistant starch works completely differently. Our digestive enzymes are not good at breaking down this type of starch. Instead of being rapidly digested in the small intestine, resistant starch travels to the large intestine where your gut bacteria ferment it. That fermentation process produces short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, like butyrate, which help improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, nourish and strengthen the cells lining your colon. So how do you get resistant starch? A simple and effective trick is this: cook your starchy foods as usual, then cool them down before reheating them. When starch is cooled, part of it crystallizes into a resistant form, a process called retrogradation, where starch molecules like amylose reorganize into structures your small intestine can't digest. That means you can still eat foods like bread, rice, and pasta, but if you cool and reheat them, you'll gain much better metabolic benefits. Multiple studies show that simply cooling cooked rice or potatoes at 39 degrees Celsius for 24 hours significantly increases resistant starch compared to eating them fresh and hot. Clinically, eating cooled and reheated rice or potatoes leads to lower post-meal glucose levels and smaller insulin spikes. So when you're eating at home, you don't have to give up rice or potatoes. Just cool or freeze them first and reheat before eating. The taste might be slightly different, but still delicious, and the benefits are hard to ignore. There are also plenty of natural foods already high in resistant starch that you can easily add to your diet. Foods that naturally contain high levels of resistant starch include beans, lentils, and peas. You can also add whole grains like oats or barley to your diet. Now let's move on to the next principal food pairing. When it comes to carbohydrates, we rarely eat them alone. And what you eat with your carbs can dramatically change your blood sugar response. Studies show that simply adding protein to a carbohydrate-rich meal can reduce glucose area under the curve AUC by up to 50% in healthy adults. We also have strong evidence that fat can blunt early glucose spikes because fat slows gastric emptying, helps regulate insulin, and over time may improve the function of your pancreatic beta cells. That's why it's best not to eat starches or refined carbs by themselves. Many people call this avoiding naked carbs. This is why rice paired with beans is better than eating rice alone, and why potatoes with butter or olive oil produce a much steadier blood sugar response than eating plain potatoes. Another powerful way to improve your glucose response is to add acid to your meals, such as vinegar, lemon, or lime. Many fermented foods help with this as well. They slow down the rate at which starch is broken down, and vinegar specifically has been shown to increase muscle insulin sensitivity and lower glucose by reducing hepatic gluconeogenesis. And here's another highly effective strategy. Eat your carbohydrates last. Meal order truly matters. If you start your meal with bread or juice, your blood sugar will spike sharply. But if you eat your protein and vegetables first and finish with carbs, your stomach releases glucose into the small intestine much more slowly, giving you a gentler and more stable glucose curve. What's fascinating is that it's the exact same meal, but simply changing the order completely changes your glucose response. This becomes especially important when dining out, where restaurants often bring bread or nachos before your salad or main dish. Start with your salad and protein, then have the bread or nachos afterward. It's a small behavioral shift, but the metabolic benefits are enormous. There are many clinical studies supporting this. For example, a randomized controlled trial found that people with type 2 diabetes who ate their protein plus vegetables before carbohydrates experienced 40% lower glucose, AUC, 31% lower insulin secretion, and a recent study from Japan using continuous glucose monitors in healthy adults showed that eating rice last significantly reduced post-meal glucose spikes. Before we continue, if you're finding this video helpful, please hit the like button so more older adults can see it, and make sure to subscribe. We post new senior health tips every day, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Now here's another factor that can make a huge difference walking right after a meal. Studies, including randomized controlled trials, show that just a 10-minute walk immediately after eating is enough to lower post-meal blood sugar. And it doesn't have to be walking. Any light movement like tidying up the kitchen or climbing stairs can help. But walking is the most studied and the easiest activity for most people. The key is this: the best time to walk or do light movement is right after your meal. The reason post-meal walking is so powerful is because it activates the soleus muscle, a calf muscle that runs from just below the knee down to the heel. This muscle is a true metabolic engine because it can absorb a large amount of glucose very quickly. Another unique feature of the soleus is that it's made mostly of slow-twitch muscle fibers, which allows it to work for long periods without getting tired. That means you burn glucose for much longer before the muscle fatigues. Next, many people claim you should cut out all carbohydrates to reverse diabetes and improve insulin resistance. But the real issue isn't carbs themselves, it's the type of carbs. Not all carbohydrates are created equal. How they're processed determines how fast they're absorbed and how dramatically they raise your blood sugar. Finely milled flour, like what you find in white bread or instant oats, digests extremely fast. But whole grains or minimally processed grains digest much more slowly and don't cause the same problems as refined carbs. Think of it like building a fire. Fine flour is like throwing sawdust into the fire. It burns fast and burns hot. Steel-cut oats, whole grains, and high-fiber carbs are like logs. They burn slowly, evenly, and steadily. Your body reacts the same way, steady, gentle glucose curves instead of sharp spikes and crashes. So just like resistant starch, choose carbohydrates that come from whole foods, minimally processed, and high in fiber. And fiber is the single most important carbohydrate you should never skip, even if you follow a low-carb diet. The benefits of extra fiber are simply too significant to ignore. One final tip: don't eat dinner too late. The later you eat, the worse your glucose response becomes. Many studies show that eating close to bedtime makes it harder for your body to process glucose even if the meal isn't high in carbs. That's because our insulin sensitivity and the pancreas's ability to release insulin follow a circadian rhythm, both naturally decline in the evening. And to make things worse, nighttime, is when your body produces more melatonin, which further reduces insulin secretion. Less insulin means more glucose staying in your bloodstream. So try to eat dinner as early as possible, ideally at least 3 hours before bedtime. And please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. We truly love hearing from you. Thank you for watching.